They told us the Academy was about unity. 12 species, 2 suns, 1 banner. That was the slogan. But Matt had already figured out the truth. Unity came second, survival came first. Virex Interstellar Academy towered on the cliffs of Varlis Prime, where gravity dipped 14% every 4th day, and the air always smelled faintly of crushed citrus. Built to train the galaxy's future diplomats, tacticians, and peacekeepers, the campus was a marvel of design, equal parts inspiration and accident waiting to happen. Each corridor adapted to the species walking it. Doors resized, chairs changed shape, cafeteria menus came with allergen warnings in 36 languages. But no amount of translation could prevent the thing that had just happened on the sparring mat. Matt lay flat on his back, vision tunneling, ribs screaming in hot, tight waves. Every breath felt like broken glass. Blood welled up somewhere he couldn't see, he could feel it, thick in his chest, flooding air he needed. Above him, Vorak's hulking silhouette shifted awkwardly, voice uncertain. It was a joke. The training room was dead silent. Matt tried to speak. He couldn't. It wasn't the first time something in this academy had tried to kill him, but this was the first time it had smiled when it did. 20 minutes earlier, the squad had been doing warm-ups in combat awareness. Third-year curriculum, cross-species hand-to-hand simulations. Each cadet was assigned a sparring partner outside their species. Vorak had approached Matt with what Matt now knew was the Talaxir equivalent of a smile, low shoulder dip, chin forward. Ready to bruise, Earthbone? Matt grinned through the nerves. Vorak always called him that. He thought it was affectionate. Maybe it was. Light contact, Vorak, barked Instructor Rel, a wiry Thurn with biorefractive skin that shifted color depending on her irritation level. Demonstration drill, non-lethal, controlled strikes only. Matt nodded. Vorak did too, sort of. For the first few passes, it had been fine. Controlled. Vorak moved fast but held back. Matt wasn't fast, but he was tight on defense. He'd studied Talzir movement patterns. They favored wide arcs, overcommitted their right side. Then came the feint. Vorak dipped left and backhanded him right across the ribs. To a Talzir, it was like a slap on the back, a buddy's jab. The same kind of hit Vorak gave his own species in celebration after drills. Not full force, just friendly. But Talzir evolved on a low-gravity moon. Their bones were hollow-latticed, their organs spaced out. They were big, yes, but designed for lightness. That same physiology meant their muscles, in standard gravity, hit like a kinetic cannon. Vorak was over 2 meters tall and built like a metallic tree trunk. What felt like a light touch to him was a hammer to Matt. 3 ribs cracked under the blow. The 4th speared inward and tore a line through the lower lobe of Matt's left lung. By the time the med team arrived, Matt had gone gray. He wasn't moving, just shallow gasps, mouth open, one hand trembling as it pressed against his side. Left 5th, 6th, and 7th ribs fractured, partial flail segment, internal bleeding, lung partially collapsed. The trauma wing's monitors blinked steadily above him. 2 hours later, he was awake. Mostly, tubes in his side. His chest ached like it was being held together with rusty nails and bad intentions. Dr. Celine Park, human, pulled her gloves off with a sigh. She had a tight bun and tired eyes. Matt knew her from the Academy's mandatory conditioning briefings. She liked sarcasm and hated paperwork. You're lucky. Another few seconds and you'd have drowned in your own blood. But the chest tube's in, your vitals are holding. We reinflated the lung. Pain's gonna suck for a while, but you'll live. Matt blinked, throat dry. Flail, segment, he rasped. Park nodded grimly. 3 ribs, broken close together. Means part of your chest wall moves independently when you breathe. Not ideal. We've stabilized it with compression strapping. You're not moving for at least 10 days. No deep breaths, no jokes, no sneezing. Matt didn't laugh. Couldn't have, even if he wanted to. Outside the window, one of the Varlis suns dipped below the horizon, casting gold light across the sterile room. 2 days in, Vorak visited. He loomed in the doorway, shifting from foot to foot like an awkward tourist. His species didn't believe in privacy during convalescence. Healing was communal, pain was shared. But this wasn't Talzir. Matt was half upright, chest bound tight with compression mesh. breathing shallow, not talking much. Vorak cleared his throat. I came to say, it was a joke. That strike, on Talexir, it means respect, recognition. Matt stared at him, unmoving. Vorak shifted again. You are strong. I thought you would laugh. Matt didn't respond. He looked straight at Vorak, face unreadable, eyes sunk deep with exhaustion and pain. After a long pause, Vorak left. In the weeks that followed, Matt watched from a mobility recliner as his squad kept training. Vorak didn't slow down. He ran drills. He lifted teammates into celebration tosses. He laughed, loud and easy. When asked about the incident, he repeated the same phrase. It was a misunderstanding. Matt said nothing. He watched, took notes, memorized every movement Vorak made. He also started reading. Talexir Physiology Archives, Muscle Group Distribution, Rib Count 10 on each side, 2 floating pairs, Secondary Lungs, Thin protective cartilage between ribs and inner organs, Vulnerable points, Lateral flank, just below the third rib, where the floating bones began to curve. He studied from the recliner in the medbay and, later, from the recovery hall when he was finally cleared to walk 10 minutes a day with a mobile brace and breathing exercises. Week 3. He stood unaided for 10 minutes. Week 4. He could lift his left arm again. Week 5. He was cleared to speak at full volume. Week 6. A cough didn't feel like death. But the pain didn't vanish. It only changed shape. It stopped screaming and started whispering, especially at night. The Academy never issued a formal punishment for Vorak. There was no policy, no rule that covered species-specific jokes gone wrong. The incident was logged as a non-malicious cross-cultural misfire. The whispers started. Fragile. Overreacted. Deathworlder drama. One cadet from Umbrix said, "Why are humans even in the program? Your skeletons shatter like glass." Matt didn't answer. He just kept reading. And slowly, very slowly, he healed. At exactly 10 weeks and 2 days post-injury, Dr. Park cleared him for light sparring. No full strikes, no torso impacts, and if you get winded, you sit. Understand? Matt nodded. The Academy gym hadn't changed. The mat still smelled like sweat and cleaning agent. The walls still flashed silent reminders in 16 dialects. Respect all biologies. Matt stepped onto the floor and offered his name to the roster assistant. Cadet Matt Brenner, cleared for Class Delta Spar. Rel, the instructor, blinked. "Welcome back, Brenner. Want to pick your partner?" Matt didn't hesitate. Vorak. The room hushed. Vorak turned from his corner, eyebrows lifting with amusement. "You sure?" Matt nodded. Vorak grinned. Then, "Let's joke. Earthbone." Matt didn't smile. Not yet. The sparring mats had been resurfaced last week, new foam layers, reinforced seams. But under Matt's boots, it felt like standing on memory. Vorak stood across from him, rolling his shoulders with slow, exaggerated ease. The Talexir cadet's towering form loomed like a statue etched in muscle. His skin, a pale ceramic blue, flexed with each casual movement. He radiated ease, confidence, maybe even amusement. Matt kept his arms loose at his sides. Not relaxed, never that, but loose, controlled. He'd been practicing every night for 3 weeks in the simulator pods, low-intensity drills. Timing, angle, restraint, especially restraint. Instructor Rel stepped between them, her chameleon skin shifting through curious shades of light purple. "This is a Class Delta light contact spar. You know the rules. First to lose footing or yield." Vorak smirked. "No shattering this time, Earthbone." Matt's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Rel gave a sharp nod. "Begin." They circled. Vorak started with a playful shuffle, no guard, hands wide, inviting contact, just like before. Matt knew the rhythm now. The Talexir started slow, invited engagement, then exploded sideways in a wide, sweeping arc, meant to catch opponents off guard with sheer force and reach. But this time, Matt didn't wait. He lunged forward, feinting a high jab to Vorak's left eye. Vorak's torso tilted instinctively, right side exposed for just half a second. Exactly enough. Matt pivoted. Left leg anchored, right arm pulled back. He drove his elbow forward with practiced restraint and deliberate angle, striking just under Vorak's rib cage, beneath the third rib, where the muscle tension softened mid-breath. The contact was sharp, efficient, no wasted movement, no excessive power. But it was enough. A sickening crack echoed across the sparring floor. Vorak stumbled back 2 steps, face twisting in a look Matt hadn't seen before, not anger, not offense, just pure, unfiltered shock. He coughed once, then twice, then dropped to one knee, both arms wrapped around his side. The room froze. No one spoke, no one moved. Rel was already signaling for the med team, but Matt didn't move from where he stood. He stepped forward slowly, not triumphant, not gloating. He crouched beside Vorak, whose breathing had turned shallow, eyes wide, muscles twitching in confusion and pain. Matt's voice came low, calm. "We don't joke." Then he stood and stepped back. Vorak was airlifted to the trauma wing 15 minutes later. The initial scan showed 3 ribs fractured, 1 nearly splintered. The lower shard sat just millimeters from one of his secondary lungs. No puncture yet, but it was close enough that the medics sedated him to prevent involuntary spasms. Matt sat alone in an observation alcove, 2 floors above the emergency wing, posture rigid. Dr. Park joined him half an hour later, her data slate in one hand and an exhausted look in her eyes. "You realize," she began quietly, "this will go on record." Matt didn't look at her. "I know. You hit him with exactly enough force to replicate your injuries, down to the rib count." Matt nodded. Park sighed, sitting beside him. "It was surgical." "I know." She glanced down at her slate. "The board's going to debate this. You'll be questioned." "I'll answer." "Why not tell someone? File a formal complaint. Go through command." Matt turned to her now. "Would that have changed anything?" Park didn't answer. 3 days later, the incident reached the High Training Council. Not because of what Matt did, but because the protocols had nothing to say about it. A Tal'Zir cadet struck a human and nearly killed him during an interspecies sparring drill. The act was dismissed as a cultural misunderstanding. A human cadet struck back with a mirrored technique legal under sparring regulations and sent the Tal'Zir to the trauma ward. Now it was a crisis. The debate spread quickly. Some instructors saw Matt's actions as a reckoning. Others saw them as a breakdown of discipline. A smaller faction, mostly from the old pre-unification species, called it barbarism. A few went further: Deathworld retaliation, instinctive violence. But a larger number began to ask the obvious. Why wasn't there a rule? Why hadn't the Academy accounted for the massive physiological gaps between species when designing a universal sparring system? They hadn't, because it had never been tested like this before. Until now. Matt spent the next week on observation hold. Not confinement, just supervised monitoring. He wasn't suspended. He wasn't reprimanded. He was simply present, watching, waiting. Vorak, for his part, said nothing. No formal complaint, no protests. He recovered in silence, which meant the Academy had no precedent, no party pressing charges, and no desire to explain why one cadet nearly died and another came close, and no one had violated any rule. So they made new ones. The official memo went out 12 days after the incident. Effective immediately, all interspecies contact, especially within physical training modules, must include biological risk briefings tailored to species pairings. Mandatory cross-species combat awareness will now be integrated into the Year 1 curriculum. The Academy will also establish an interspecies disciplinary review board to address context-specific conflict. Behind closed doors, someone called it the Brenner Clause. Not to honor him, just to file it under a name. Matt didn't care. He wasn't looking for recognition, or revenge. He hadn't felt proud when Vorak dropped. Just finished. The debt was closed. 2 weeks later, Vorak showed up unannounced in the Academy Arboretum, where Matt was completing his daily breathing rehab under one of the low-gravity maple hybrids. Vorak was thinner. His breathing had an uneven rhythm to it. Slow recovery. Matt didn't get up. Vorak stood nearby, silent for a while. Then, "It was not my rib that broke first. It was the banner." Matt turned slightly, surprised. Vorak looked at him. Not angry, not proud. Talzir, honor means respecting strength when shown. I thought I was showing you mine, but I only saw yours when you showed restraint. Matt raised an eyebrow. That wasn't restraint. You could have shattered me worse. You didn't. I studied your strike. It was precise. Silence again. Then Vorak sat, legs crossed, wincing slightly. On my world, we celebrate recovery with challenge matches. Pain makes us closer. Matt shook his head. On mine, pain teaches you not to make the same mistake twice. Then we both learned. They sat there for another 10 minutes. Nothing more was said. It wasn't friendship, not trust, but it was something. Word of the incident rippled quietly through the cadet wings. No posters, no announcements, just whispers, not fear, not awe. Just respect. No one joked about Matt anymore. No one called him Earthbone. He returned to training at 80% capacity a few weeks later. Limited torso motion, no chest strain. Dr. Park still frowned every time he stepped on a mat, but didn't stop him. He was careful, deliberate. Not because he was weak, but because he now understood better than most how strong he actually was. And how easily things broke. The academy gym smelled like ozone and sweat same as always, but Matt moved through it differently now. He still favored his left side, subtly protecting the ribs that had taken weeks to hold together again. The med staff had warned him. While the fractures had calcified, full bone remodeling would take months. A second blow to the same area could collapse the structure all over again, so he adapted, rotated through different stances, switched guards mid-drill, took more time on cooldowns. He wasn't the strongest in the room, not by far, but every motion had a purpose. Every breath counted. The others noticed, not just the humans. The Pruthex twins started asking him about human tendon structure. A Zathari cadet from the marine biology program asked to exchange notes on body chemistry during injury responses. Even a stoic, gray-skinned Herrick gave him a slow blink of approval after a hand-to-hand demo. From a Herrick, that was basically a standing ovation. Matt didn't preen. He didn't make speeches. He didn't become a legend overnight, but his presence changed. The fragile Deathworlder tag fell off somewhere along the line, not replaced by fear or mystique, just recognition. The same kind you give someone who's gone through the fire and come out carrying the pieces. He spent more time in recovery hall than most cadets, and not just for himself. Too much rotation, Matt said, crouching beside Cadet Rivera, a first year from Earth's Chilean territories. She winced as he adjusted her posture. I thought it added torque, she said, breathing heavily. Not when you're already pushing through an oblique strain. You want power from your hips, not your ribs. How do you know all this? He gave her a look. She raised her hands. Right. Sorry, bad question. Matt didn't smile, but his eyes softened. It was different now, being back. He hadn't just recovered, he'd recalibrated. There were quiet benefits to pain. If you survived it, Vorak wasn't seen much during those weeks. Word was that Talzir recovery protocols involve prolonged hibernation phases, especially when secondary lung tissue was involved. But one day, mid-cycle, Matt passed the medical wing and saw him through the reinforced observation glass, lying flat, respirator attached, chest gently rising under faint blue lights. There were no guards, no visitors. Matt didn't go in, but he stood for a minute, longer than he expected. Academy leadership rolled out the new combat awareness modules faster than anyone predicted. The system was patchwork at first, pre-recorded lectures, case studies, with Matt and Vorak, quietly anonymized, emergency anatomy briefings. But the intent was clear. They were rewriting the rules, and the students were expected to keep up. Matt found himself called into discussion panels, unofficially. They didn't want to make him the face of anything, not formally. Too messy, too fresh, but he was asked repeatedly for insight. Would you have done anything differently? He always answered the same way. I'd rather it never happened. During that time, one of the younger Talzir cadets approached him in the courtyard. She looked barely old enough for the academy, eyes luminous, posture stiff. You struck Vorak, she said simply. Matt, halfway through stretching, stood slowly. I did. He is clan bonded to my sibling pair. You could have ended him. I didn't. She tilted her head. Why stop? He looked at her for a long moment, then said, because ending someone teaches nothing. But pain sticks. She watched him another moment, then nodded once. Sharp, precise. Your kind is stranger than we thought, she said. Matt exhaled through his nose. We get that a lot. 10 weeks after his return to training, Matt sat across from Vorak again. Not on the mat, not in combat gear. In a strategy briefing room, their names both called for a joint field simulation prep. It was the first time they'd been assigned together since the incident. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the holographic table, displaying mission parameters, simulated hostage scenario, mixed species squad, unknown terrain variables. All cadets were expected to collaborate on operational plans. Matt watched Vorak for a moment before speaking. You good to work together? Vorak didn't flinch. Yes. Silence. Then Vorak added, quieter, you're not what I thought. Matt tilted his head slightly. What did you think I was? Breakable, like bone without core. Matt tapped a knuckle on the table. And now? You broke me back, but you held it in your hands first. Matt gave a tight nod. We don't stay broken. They started drafting strategy. No tension, no performance, just work. The simulated mission was a success. No egos, no missteps. Matt and Vorak coordinated flanks, alternated lead commands, and even used a dual breach maneuver that earned a rare compliment from Instructor Rel. The report cited exceptional cross-species cohesion under prior strain. Matt didn't mention that both of them winced when crouching low. Recovery was still ongoing for both of them. But they moved forward anyway. Weeks later, Matt found himself in the Arboretum again, slower this time, enjoying the slight breeze pumped through the artificial tree canopies. His breathing was even, ribs held up under light movement. Nothing stabbed, nothing collapsed. Progress. He spotted Vorak again, this time standing near a group of cadets from varied species, explaining Talzir clan rituals, a soft reenactment of how their people use shoulder bumps as bonding gestures. Everyone listened. Some even laughed. Vorak caught Matt's eye for a second. Didn't nod. Didn't gesture. Just a glance, a thread of understanding passing through the air between them. That was enough. Matt's physical clearance was updated 2 weeks later. 100% function restored. No limitations. Dr. Park looked at him from over the tablet with an arched eyebrow. Still planning to behave? Matt shrugged carefully. Mostly. She set the tablet down. You've changed. He didn't deny it. Still pain? Sometimes, he said. Not sharp anymore. Just a reminder. Good, she said. Pain is data. He smirked faintly. That's not in any human proverb I know. Park stood, gathering her things. I'm adapting. By the end of the term, the Academy's bulletin boards showed new infographics. Cross-species contact risks. Know your partner's limits. Respect is not universal, but damage is. Matt's name wasn't on any of them, neither was Vorak's. But people knew. And quietly, the culture of the Academy shifted. No more offhand shoves from species who didn't know their strength. No more jokes that could stop a heart or break a lung. Humans weren't feared. That would have missed the point. They were understood. And understanding was the whole reason the Academy was built in the first place. The final combat evaluation of the year was held under simulated conditions in Dome 7, a high-ceilinged environmental enclosure designed to mimic unpredictable planetary terrain. Today, the instructors had selected a mid-gravity desert template with jagged rock formations, temperature fluxes, and limited visibility. It was meant to push cadets not just physically, but diplomatically, forcing them to operate alongside species with conflicting needs. The squad assignments were random. Matt was paired with Vorak again. No one flinched at the pairing this time. No whispered warnings, no sideways glances, no smirks. They were just two cadets, partners, colleagues. And for Matt, that felt like the cleanest ending the whole mess could have earned. Vorak crouched beside him behind a simulated dune, scanning their target's last known signal, His movement was efficient, his breathing steady. It had taken him longer than Matt to return to full duty. Talgsir's secondary lung tissue healed slowly. There had been a risk of permanent function loss. He'd beaten it, but barely. "You move quieter now," Matt said softly as he adjusted the strap on his rifle harness. Vorak nodded. "Scar tissue stiffened my flank. I compensate." "Does it still hurt?" "Yes, I remember you when I breathe." Matt gave a dry huff of air that might have been a laugh. "That's fair." The simulated target was an extraction pod, lost in hostile terrain. 3 non-aligned combatant bots and a civilian model were scattered somewhere in the zone. Their squad's goal: locate the civilian, secure safe exit, avoid or neutralize threats, no fatalities. Communication failures were also simulated. Team members had to rely on silent coordination and cultural awareness to stay effective. Vorak made a low gesture with his right hand, a Talgsir symbol Matt had studied. "Proceed, but be wary." Matt signaled back in kind. "Understood. Avoid high ground." They moved, side by side, balanced. An hour in, they encountered the bots. 2 attacked on sight. 1 was disabled by Vorak using a concussive pulse. Matt flanked the other, using terrain and elevation like tools. Clean, coordinated. The civilian bot was found tangled in fallen sensor wire, partially non-responsive. Vorak stepped forward. Matt caught his shoulder just in time. "She's an elder configure," he warned. "Proximity protocols. Sudden moves might trigger her defense override." Vorak nodded once and backed off. Let Matt approach instead. Slower, calmer, hands open. They secured her without incident. It was a small moment, but it mattered. Trust had been earned, not declared. The post-simulation debrief came with tea, a small ceremony unofficial, led by Instructor Rel for squads who passed with distinction. They sat in silence around a low circular table. Each cadet received a steaming ceramic cup matched to their species' tolerances. Matt took a sip and held the warmth against his chest. The ribs still ached, even now. Cold mornings were the worst. Rel looked around the circle, her skin a mellow green, a color that suggested reflection. "No commendations," she said. "No rankings. You all did what was asked. That is enough." She paused, then turned to Matt. "Cadet Brenner, I want to say something off record." Matt straightened slightly, cup still in hand. "When you arrived here, you were just another variable. One more species to fold into the system. You forced us to admit the system wasn't finished." Matt didn't speak. "You weren't the first to get hurt, but you were the first to make us stop pretending it didn't matter. That's not glory, but it's legacy." She turned to Vorak. "And you, Cadet Vorak, reminded us that strength without listening is not strength." Vorak lowered his head slightly. "I caused damage." "You both did," Rel said, "but only because we asked you to work together without teaching you how." No one else spoke. There was nothing to add. The final week of the term passed quietly. Exams, equipment returns, departure briefings. Matt spent one last afternoon in the med bay not as a patient, but to return his rehab monitoring unit. Dr. Park inspected it, checked the logs, and gave a sharp nod. No red flags, breathings within range, rib integrity holding. Matt raised an eyebrow. "That's it? No emotional goodbye? No reminder not to get myself smashed again?" Park slid the device into a drawer. "You already learned the important part. Pain doesn't make you special. How you carry it might." Matt smiled faintly. "I'll quote you, sparingly." She looked up, one corner of her mouth twitching. "Don't." The shuttle station was crowded on departure day. Cadets hugged, exchanged comms, promised to keep in touch. Different species grieved in different ways. Some sang, some blinked in patterns. One couple from Kfar, 3 pressed foreheads and traded scent tokens. Matt waited in line quietly, duffel at his feet. A familiar shadow loomed behind him. He didn't turn. "Your people always leave this quiet?" Vorak asked. Matt shrugged. "We make noise when it matters. Otherwise, we just keep walking." Vorak was quiet for a beat. Then, softly, "I will be deployed to the Hevros outpost, next term. Terrain studies. Talzir volunteers were requested." I answered. Matt nodded. "I've read about it. Variable gravity? Wind storms?" You would adapt well. Matt turned now, looked him in the eye. I learned from the best. Vorak tilted his head, then, slowly, deliberately, extended his right arm, not in aggression, but open-palmed. Matt paused, then matched it. They pressed forearms together. For Talksir, it was the gesture given between equals, not clan, not family, but someone whose pain had taught you something. No words were exchanged after that, none needed. Vorak moved on, his shuttle in a different direction. Matt waited in line until the boarding light flashed. Then he stepped forward. As the shuttle pulled away from Virex Interstellar Academy, Matt watched the cliffside structure shrink behind them. The twin suns of Varlis Prime cast long, golden shadows over the training fields and the domes, the endless infrastructure built to teach unity in a universe that barely understood itself. He thought about what he'd said to Vorak. We don't